Hey everybody, this is Patriots Worldwide and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm going to go over everything that went on in the offseason leading up to our first game in week 1 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Lots to go over and let's just jump right into it and begin. Immediately following the firing of Gerard Mayo, Robert Kraft got to work to find the next head coach of the New England Patriots. For a whole week, he conducted interviews with many qualified candidates, but his decision came to a name that we are all familiar with. Mike Vrabel, former defensive end for the New England Patriots, winning 3 Super Bowls in the 2000s as a player, going on to become a really solid head coach in his own right for the Tennessee Titans from 2018 to 2023. And in that time span, Vrabel led the Titans to 3 playoff appearances, including an AFC championship in 2019 and winning Coach of the Year in 2021, along with leading the Titans to the first seed. Mike Vrabel's resume speaks for itself, both as a player and a coach. Without a doubt, Mike Vrabel was the best head coaching candidate available. Robert Kraft is also very adamant about wanting to win and wants to see the playoffs again. As fans, we've been exposed and we've witnessed some of the worst football in recent history. The past 2 years alone just amassed to 8-26, inexcusable, and some of the worst football I've ever seen execution-wise. But if there is one man who could lead this team and is capable of bringing a winning culture back to Foxborough and making New England that team that everybody feared, that giant that nobody wanted to be in the way of, the man who can bring many victory Mondays going forward is Mike Vrabel. So we've undoubtedly have made the right decision, and I know within time, maybe not this year, but I'm very optimistic. We see the playoffs, but we will have playoff success under Mike Vrabel, and we will all learn that January 2025 was a historic month for this franchise and a turning point on the sinking ship. Coach Vrabel, which still sounds surreal, got to work hiring his staff going forward as the next head coach. The 2 names I will be going over are our newly hired offensive and defensive coordinators. Starting first on the offensive side, a familiar name and a familiar face we all know, Josh McDaniels. Just want to give a quick recap on Josh McDaniels' NFL career. In the early 2000s, he served on New England's staff as a personnel assistant, a defensive assistant, a quarterback's coach, and an offensive coordinator. In 2009, he became the Denver Broncos head coach before only getting fired after 1 year. Then from 2011, he was the St. Louis Rams offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach before finding his way back to New England in 2012. From 2012 to 2021, he served as our offensive coordinator, winning 3 more Super Bowl titles, and in 2018, he almost became the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts before pulling out and remaining on the team for 3 more years. Following the 2021 season, McDaniels was named the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, which just like his stint in Denver only lasted 1 season. After getting fired, the painful reality was a brutal reminder that not every coordinator is meant to be a head coach. Josh just did not have what it took to lead, be a good example, or just be a good head coach. And after a hiatus that lasted a year long, Josh McDaniels is back in the NFL, and he's back at his alma mater, New England Patriots. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't know how to feel at first when we hired Josh, and it wasn't because I didn't like him. Even when the rumors were circulating that we were going to hire him, I was hoping they were false, and it wasn't a personal thing. I just want to stress that now. If I remember back to 2021, a lot of us, especially me, were very excited that he was taking the job as the Vegas head coach, and it wasn't that I hated him or we were just getting rid of him. It was because his play calling just felt too redundant and predictable, and it seemed like we were going in a new direction entirely. And what I mean by his play calling is, for example, say if it's 3rd and 15, typically you would throw a medium or deep pass, but Josh's play calling goes like this. 3rd down and 15, he would typically call a halfback dive or a halfback screen. And the ironic thing is, it usually ended up working. And I think Josh's mindset goes like this. Oh, they're expecting us to throw it deep or a medium pass? I'm going to throw it short and let the player do the rest. It's going to catch them so off guard that it's just going to have to work. It usually works early on in the season, but when defenses are able to sniff it out miles away, you have to change your whole routine up. And the other thing I was always very critical on McDaniels' play calling, that it was very, very basic, very predictable, and any quarterback could essentially thrive in it if he was good. The greater the quarterback, the better the talent, the more likely they are able to succeed in this playbook. However, after many years of having failed experiments at the offensive coordinating position, specifically Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, 2 guys whose designated previous positions were on defense and special teams, they weren't meant to be calling plays. Then you have Bill O'Brien, who's a very smart, great coach and coordinator in his own right. He was doomed to fail from the start given the terrible quarterbacks he had to work with. It's no wonder why he took the Boston College head coaching gig. He wanted to get out of the sinking ship while he had a chance. And then brings me to last year, Alex Van Pelt. If we thought the ship was sinking before, it's completely submerged now. The guy's play calling is so much more redundant and arguably way worse than Josh McDaniels ever was, exaggerations or not. Specifically against the Colts last year, Christian Gonzalez intercepts the ball. We have just under a couple minutes left in the game before we could win. Let's call 3 halfback dives consecutively, said Alex Van Pelt, holding his blank play call sheet. Like, my God, like, the defense at Foxborough High School could have figured that out, which resulted into a punt and Anthony Richardson, yes, that Anthony Richardson leading a game-winning drive and a game-winning 2-point conversion. Just unacceptable, sick, disgusting. So given everything that was said, despite all my negative feelings and comments towards Josh McDaniels this episode, I would much rather have someone like him with the years of experience and almost 2 decades of working with the greatest quarterback of all time calling plays. He can call all the screen passes that he wants if it helps develop our next quarterback. It's just reliving that really just drains me. It's all good because next I will be going into my thoughts on hiring our defensive coordinator, Terrell Williams. All right, defensive coordinator Terrell Williams, who I keep accidentally calling Terrell Williams because I keep getting tongue-tied. I hate it. I want to get over it, and I will get over it. Sorry. He has an impressive resume, being a defensive line coach for many colleges, specifically Fort Scott, North Carolina A&T, Youngstown State, Akron, Purdue University, and Texas A&M. In 2012, Terrell Williams would begin his NFL debut as the defensive line coach for the Oakland Raiders at the time. In his career in the NFL, Williams served as the defensive line coach for all his teams. In 2015, he became the defensive line coach for the Miami Dolphins. 2018, he became the defensive line coach for the Tennessee Titans under Mike Vrabel. 2023, he served as a defensive line coach and the interim head coach following the departure of Vrabel, and then going to the Detroit Lions for one season in 2024 as, you guessed it, the defensive line coach, before finally coming to New England as the current defensive coordinator and the highest position of his coaching career, with the exception of being the interim head coach for the Titans. Now, the one thing I really love about Terrell Williams is that not only does his resume speak for itself, just like Vrabel's, he's just a very cutthroat guy, doesn't cut corners, and doesn't take anything from anybody. He's going to turn this defense into a feared, ferocious unit like the old days under Bill Belichick, and if you remember 2018 Brian Flores, that defense was absolutely deadly. Williams will undoubtedly make a great head coach one day, so let's just enjoy him while he's here. And now I'm going to get into what really defined our offseason. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for so long. The players we signed during the free agency period, and also the players we drafted to really help turn this team into a potential playoff contender. Let's just get right into it. Kicking off free agency, Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf swung for the fences and spent big, signing Harold Landry, former Tennessee Titan, obviously a Vrabel guy, a great edge rusher, and he immediately brings a big presence on the defense. Following that, we signed middle linebacker Robert Spillane, former Vrabel guy, former Josh McDaniels guy on the Raiders, just another great presence, and he's a great locker room leader along with Landry. And then to cap things off on the third signing, because there's plenty of them to go, and we made a lot of big ones. Carlton Davis, cornerback from the Detroit Lions. Terrell Williams obviously had a lot of influence on him, and Carlton Davis also won the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020, so he has a ring with Brady, just like Vrabel and McDaniels. Yeah, and these two, Elliott Wolf, Mike Vrabel, just hitting home run after home run in that front office, just Batman and Robin here. It's insane. The following signing was Morgan Moses, right tackle from the New York Jets. Getting a division rival coming to the Patriots is always fun. It's always a plus. But given that he's been in the league for many years, he has a veteran presence, and he's a great mentor to our future left tackle, who I will talk about in a few moments. But the next signing was arguably the biggest in the whole free agency. The biggest fish in the free agency pond, the big kahuna, Milton Williams, defensive tackle formerly of the Philadelphia Eagles, helping Philly secure their second Lombardi, and him playing a big role in that as well. Now, originally, it gets really complicated because Milton Williams was going to sign with the Panthers, but before he can put his name on the dotted line, he saw the mess he was in, and just like Josh McDaniels in 2018, he pulled out and went back to the New England Patriots. Except we made Milton Williams the highest paid free agent in Patriots franchise history, which is just crazy to think about. Giving him $103 million, making that $64 million annually. Just blows my mind that we did something like that, given all the history of us missing so many big names in the past, we finally got one, and this is arguably the greatest signing. And I hope it lives up to be the greatest signing, because could you imagine if Milton Williams just plays at this elite level with Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams just coaching him alongside Keon White, Harold Landry, Christian Barmore? Just, sheesh, this defense is just so special. Following all of that, we've signed defensive tackle, former Minnesota Viking, Kyrisa Tonga. After that, we signed quarterback Josh Dobbs, who's kind of been a journeyman around the league, played for the 49ers, the Browns, the Titans under Mike Vrabel, the Vikings, had a little bit of a insanity run a couple of years back, so it was cool to have him. A name I didn't expect to see, but I was glad I did. Following that, we addressed the wide receiver needs, signing Mac Hollins, former Miami Dolphin, Atlanta Falcon, Las Vegas Raider under Josh McDaniels, Buffalo Bill most recently, catching 5 touchdowns. A lot of people weren't too thrilled with that signing, but I liked it because he was able to do a lot in Buffalo with Josh Allen, and being that he's a big body receiver standing at 6'4", he'll be able to get up there and get those jump balls, and it's very crucial for Drake's development to have a guy like that, so I'm glad we got him. On the depth chart, though, I do not really know where Hollins would rank. I would say at face value he's the 4 behind Booty and Pop. Given that he's a big body receiver, I have him as like a temporary 2 because like I said, he's a big guy. He can jump up there, and I think he'll be used more that he's under Josh McDaniels' offensive scheme again and they have history. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But overall, glad we have him, and he'll serve as a quality piece. Following that, we signed edge rusher, former Raider, Kaylavon Chason. I probably just butchered that name. I'm terribly sorry. Very under the radar signing. Just a very underrated player. He's a great edge rusher. And I would not be surprised if he ends up starting this year or at some point in the season, because he's just so phenomenal at what he does on the right side, and he's going to bolster up that defensive line. Like I said, imagine him next to Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Keon White, just occasionally coming in. It's going to be an exciting season for this defense. I can't get enough. Following that, we signed guard Wes Schweltzler. I always had trouble pronouncing it. Again, former Jet, but unfortunately, he immediately retired not too far after the signing. I think he just saw the 6 Lombardis, and being a Jet, he didn't know what that was, so his body couldn't take it, and he just said, I can't do this anymore. We signed Marcus Epps, who was a Las Vegas Raider under Josh McDaniels, only on the defensive side of the ball as a safety. I was really excited about the signing, and I was really looking forward to see what he was capable of doing this season. But unfortunately, as the making of this podcast continues, he has been released, and he is now currently a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Just unfortunate, but it's just part of the game. We then signed former Minnesota Vikings center Garrett Bradbury. Minnesota released Bradbury, and almost immediately New England swooped in and gave him a deal that he couldn't refuse. Bradbury is a very serviceable, solid player. He's given up a few plays here and there in Minnesota. A lot of people weren't so pleased. But I think Doug Marrone, our offensive line coach, could really whip him into shape and make him a serviceable guard for the next couple of years, give or take his stint in New England. But I think it was a good signing, and it was a good value too. Following that, we signed linebacker Jack Gibbons, former Tennessee Titan, and he also played under Mike Vrabel and played alongside now current Patriot Harold Landry. It's always good to have chemistry on the defensive side of the ball, and guys who have been coached by Mike Vrabel also know how to be tough and win games when they have to. So again, great deal, great value, good player. And the final signing of our free agency period ended with a bang. After so many years of pursuing a wide receiver 1, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, the list goes on. We were almost going to get Cooper Kupp until he signed with the Seattle Seahawks last minute. It was just very frustrating that we kept missing out again and again. But there was one name that kept surfacing for the New England Patriots, and I just didn't believe we were going to sign him as he did not like us, and I didn't think we liked him. But we signed wide receiver, former Houston Texan, Buffalo Bill, and Minnesota Viking, Stephon Diggs, to a 3-year, $69 million deal, which is very nice. It still blows my mind that he's a Patriot, but he's obviously made amends. He's repaired a lot of burned bridges. And the only concerning thing was last fall, he tore his ACL. Despite being the wide receiver 3 on the Houston Texans, he was on pace for 1,000 yards, so imagine what he can do in charge as a wide receiver 1. There was a lot of concerns, especially from me, because I did not think he liked the Patriots. I thought he was going to refuse to sign here, even if we offered him something previously in the free agency period. And I also believed he was only visiting with us to help accelerate other teams' interest. But in the end, he came here knowingly that he hated this franchise, but also he's made so much amends, as I've mentioned, and I think he just wants to play football. It also helps that he gets to play his former team and quarterback Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills twice a year. Those are the two games he's going to have a big showing. And I know a lot of people are concerned with Diggs's, quote, diva behavior, which to a degree I understand. You want to be the best player on the field, and in your mind you think you are the best player, so when you're not getting the ball or you're not producing enough, you're going to be angry, you're going to snap at your quarterback. But that's just all part of growing pains and also learning discipline. He's healthy, he's happy, and I think the biggest news of this all is despite tearing his ACL all the way back in like November, I believe, he's ready for week 1 against the Las Vegas Raiders, which is just some phenomenal healing. It's just I can't stress it enough. We finally have a wide receiver 1. It's special. We did it. And on the whole Stephon Diggs train, I've always said on multiple occasions that he made Josh Allen. So I have to take that back as Allen won MVP. So the way I see it, he didn't necessarily make Josh Allen, he just saved and resurrected his career. Because Josh Allen was on the status of being a bust until he got a great receiver to help unlock his potential and his abilities. In somewhat of like a similar vein of Tom Brady getting Randy Moss, except Brady was never like a bad quarterback because in his first 5 years, he wins 3 Super Bowls. He contributed a lot. It also helps when you have a great defense, great head coach. But Brady was always going to be good to great. And then when he finally got Randy Moss, he became great to elite. And that's what made him become this elite quarterback and the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm not saying Allen is going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't even think he's the best in the league. That's just my humble opinion. But in the similar vein of you just need a wide receiver to help unlock your potential. So who says Diggs can't do this for Drake May? This is why it's so beneficial and exciting that we finally have a wide receiver 1 at a great to elite level. And with having great signings come some really sad and painful departures. Firstly, I guess this wasn't too painful, but we traded defensive tackle Devon Gottschall to the New Orleans Saints for a future 7th-round pick. We then lost our longtime captain and beloved center David Andrews. On March 12th, David announced his retirement from the NFL, and it was very sad for us fans because he was a longtime fan favorite. He was the anchor of this offensive line, and he was a locker room leader, and he was a great example on and off the field. Despite expressing that he wanted to continue playing in the NFL, he chose to retire a Patriot, which meant a lot to us fans. My favorite moment of David Andrews, along with almost everyone else's, was after we defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship in 2018, he waved at the crowd and said goodbye as he ran to the locker room to celebrate our victory. My favorite quality of David Andrews, besides his leadership, was his loyalty. Specifically calling back to 2021, in free agency he was expected to leave and probably make a lot more money with any other team, but at the end he decided to come back to New England, presumably making a little less than what he would have made. But by coming back to New England on what seemed to be presumably a cheaper deal was his way of giving thanks and gratitude and also being able to hone his skills and help this offense grow as a way of saying thank you to a team that took a gamble and a chance on him all those years ago in 2016. Because of that, I always had a certain level of respect for David Andrews, not only for expressing his loyalty, but just being the best player he could possibly be. And to me, he's the benchmark of what most players should be. Just don't talk, let your actions speak for you, and just play football. Don't worry about the money, don't worry about what the people are saying, just do your job. Do your thing. Do whatever task is in front of you and get it done, and do it with flying colors. For an undrafted free agent, David had one of the best careers ever for an offensive lineman, and capping it off with 2 Super Bowl wins, he will forever be a Patriot, one of the best Patriot players we've had in the dynasty years, and arguably one of the most overlooked players of NFL history in the last 2 decades. So, thank you, David Andrews. You will forever be a Patriot. After David Andrews, we released 2 more veterans, longtime captain Jawan Bentley, which was somewhat of a shock, but also expected just given his age and his regression, and cornerback Jonathan Jones. I really don't know how to feel about it because after these past few years, I grew to dislike him, not as a player, but just as his abilities began to just really just fall off. He was no use to us, and I feel like the best turn of his career should have been after Devin McCourty retired. You should have made John Jones a safety. He was more of a zone player than a man coverage kind of player, so I'm glad he's gone. Not in like a negative way. Like I'm grateful for what he did for the team, helping us win a couple of Super Bowls. But it was time. Jawan Bentley, same thing. He was a good captain, a good leader, fun guy to watch. One of my favorite players from the 2018 draft class. But again, he was getting older, regressing, couldn't tackle anymore, was kind of slow. So it was time. So yeah, for those 2, thank you for your service and good luck elsewhere. I know John Jones is a Commander, and as of the second, Bentley is an undrafted free agent, but I expect him to find his way on like the Broncos or even the Commanders as a reunion. And then after that, we kind of made an out of left field decision. We traded rookie quarterback Joe Milton to the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th-round pick. Wasn't a bad trade at all. There was better offers, but we felt that it was quote-unquote better to go somewhere where he could develop his talents and abilities. I don't see how, but I don't know. I really didn't have time to see him on the team to really develop any sort of like expectations or like fan appreciation because he just wasn't around that much. And quite frankly, I'm glad we did it because after that Buffalo game where the Milton Maniacs came out, they were expressing how he's so great and he's a starter and we should bench May over him. But in actuality, they weren't factoring in the fact that Buffalo had nothing to play for and didn't even want to try that game. And it's easy to look good when you're playing against a bunch of backups and third stringers. But kudos to Milton. Good luck on the Cowboys. Still doesn't make sense to me, but I hope he has a good career. And I'm just glad the Milton Maniacs are quiet because it was getting on par with the Zappy fans, and that is an experience I never want to live through again. That pretty much wraps it up for the free agency period. I grade it, maybe because I'm biased here, I'm giving it an A. It was just solid. We took care of what we needed, missed out on a couple pieces, but made up for it in the draft, which is what I'm going to get into now. Leading up to the draft, this goes all the way back to September of 2024, which is way too early, but everybody was making mock drafts. Any top prospect or any prospect in general who either declared or was going to declare was mocked to becoming a New England Patriot. It was one of the most hectic experiences I had as a fan because it was very draining to have a daily conversation with people to either defend or debate your take, which was fun, but it also became very repetitive. All the top prospects, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Ashton Janty, you name them, they were being mocked to the Patriots. But on draft night, everything settled with the 4th overall pick, the 6-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots selected Will Campbell, left tackle out of LSU, the best left tackle in the country and only allowed 4 sacks in his 3 years of starting for LSU. Incredible player, great guy, and I can already tell he's a great leader and he's going to replace the gap that David Andrews left. After being drafted, Will Campbell said the now famous quote, "I am going to fight and die and I will protect them with everything I've got," referring to Drake May, his fellow offensive linemen, and his running backs. If that doesn't get you fired up, you need to check your pulse because that right there is a football player. That right there is a modern-day gladiator and warrior, and that right there is a born winner. With the 38th pick, the New England Patriots selected running back Travion Henderson out of the Ohio State University. And in my humble opinion, with the exception of Ashton Janty, he is the best running back in his class. If you remember James White, he is the elite version of James White, an overall workhorse, a future captain, and a great leader. If you recall, Mike Vrabel's offense always had a dominant running back. If you remember Derrick Henry on the Titans, while the Patriots under Mike Vrabel have Travion Henderson. With the 69th pick, nice, the New England Patriots selected Kyle Williams, wide receiver out of Washington State University. Now, I really don't know how to feel about this pick. It's not because he's like an under-the-radar name. It's the fact that any wide receiver we've drafted over these past few years just never panned out to how we expected them to. N'Keal Harry, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, just to name 3. And it's just painful to remember that we drafted them over the likes of so many great players. A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, DK Metcalf, just the list goes on. It hurts. So I don't expect much from Kyle Williams, especially because every time I've done so, along with a lot of us, were let down severely. So I'll say as long as he can score at least 3 touchdowns this year, he's in good shape to make a positive impact, and I hope one day he can become the wide receiver too, but for now, let's just see what he does as a rookie. With the 95th pick in the NFL draft, the New England Patriots selected Jared Wilson, initially entered the draft as a center out of the University of Georgia, the perfect guy to replace the aforementioned David Andrews. But Jared Wilson is also a Swiss Army knife offensive lineman. He could play anywhere on the line, and as of this moment, he is the starting left guard in place of Cole Strange. Great player. I like his versatility. I just hope he could stay healthy and be able to carry the load, especially as a rookie. But I think we found our cornerstone left piece of the line with Campbell and Wilson. With the 106th pick of the NFL draft, the New England Patriots selected defensive back Craig Woodson out of the University of Michigan, not to be confused with Charles Woodson. I think he's a great player. I know it's not okay and everyone advises you, oh, don't drink the Kool-Aid, don't buy the hype, so to speak. but I'm really expecting a lot from this kid. It's not only because he's now currently a starter, at least expected to be like a co-starter in the defensive back position, but when you see a guy like with a first round talent, like say Will Campbell, when you're picked in the top five, no less, like you're expected to be great. Trayvon Henderson, who was a first round prospect that fell to the second round, like he's expected to be really great off rip. But with Craig Woodson, though, I really want him to be great and to make an immediate impact and help lock down the secondary for the next few years. That would be really special. With the 137th pick, we selected defensive tackle Joshua Farmer from Florida State University, a very big-bodied defensive tackle to join the room of Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, and Karisi Tonga. Just a great guy to have. Hopefully he develops well under Williams and Vrabel, and he can be a perfect depth piece for the time being. I'm excited to see what he can do, but I don't expect him to be playing too much, but we'll just see what happens. With the 146th pick, we selected Braden Swinson, edge rusher out of LSU. I was very excited with this pick because we were not only pairing up LSU teammates Will Campbell and Swinson, but I was excited to see what he can do and taking mentorship from Keon White, Anthony Jennings. Forgive me if I pronounced the name wrong. But unfortunately, he was practice squatted following cut day, so it was kind of like a confusing decision, but maybe the front office just sees stuff that us fans don't. So I'll just take their word for it. It's not like it's their job or anything. With the 182nd pick, the New England Patriots selected kicker Andreas Borregales from the University of Miami. A decently good kicker in college, could kick in any weather condition, which was a plus, but come preseason, he was struggling immensely to make 50-yard field goals or really any long ones, which is understandable, but in today's NFL, you're kind of expected to make like 1,000-yarders, again, metaphorically speaking. So I hope the kid works out. I like him, so we'll just see what has to happen. Like, I like all the players we drafted, I'm going to be real. With the 220th pick, we are really nearing the end of this draft. We selected tackle Marcus Bryant out of the University of Missouri. Now, I expect him to be a right tackle because he's built for it, and he's also going to learn under Morgan Moses, and eventually, I hope, within the next 2 to 3 years, he could work alongside Will Campbell as like a staple on this offensive line. But his future is really looking bleak as we have Caden Wallace serving as a backup guard and potential tackle, depending on how they want to work it. So we'll just hope for the best for him. No high expectations, though. Maybe one day he can get a Pro Bowl because they give those out like ring pops. With the 251st pick, we selected long snapper Julian Ashby out of Vanderbilt. Not much to really be said, nor expectations are any higher. We always need a good long snapper, and this was the obvious replacement to Joe Cardona, who joined the Miami Dolphins, aka the Patriots dumpster. So all we can expect from Ashby is just be good. You can sleep comfortably at night knowing we have a good long snapper, but happy we have him. Following a couple of trades, the New England Patriots are picking last both on their board and the NFL draft as a whole. With the 257th pick in the NFL draft, the New England Patriots selected Mr. Irrelevant, Kobe Minor, defensive back out of Memphis. Now, Kobe, I don't really have any expectations for him, but I'm getting a lot of Malcolm Butler vibes in terms of career trajectory, starting off on special teams and hopefully working his way up the depth chart to be a reliable cornerback 4 or 5. And then maybe down the road become a slot replacement for an aging Marcus Jones if he's around that long. But overall, to me, I still think we nailed this draft. Could have drafted some players here or there. It's easier to say that in hindsight. But again, I give this draft a solid like A-, B+. But you know what? We are back, baby. And with that, that wraps up the offseason. After preseason, it was pretty much how you would expect. We won the first 2 games. Mike Vrabel ended up getting involved in a scuffle amongst the players, which is pretty hilarious when you think about it. And we made some surprising cuts. We tried trading Kyle Duggar, but nobody wanted him, surprise, surprise, so we just kind of kept him around, which makes no sense. We surprisingly released Jabril Peppers. We weren't really given a valid reason. Very shocking, as he was one of the captains, and statistically, he was one of the better safeties in the league. But yet we keep Kyle Duggar. The fact that Peppers is gone and Duggars is here really just makes me sick. We did release Kendrick Bourne, which was kind of expected from me, at least. It was sad because, we're losing a guy who has a good leadership quality and he brings great vibes to the locker room. But before him, it was Matthew Slater. Before him, it was Teddy Bruschi. They always get replaced. Drake May is our new locker room guy, as far as I'm concerned. It was just kind of funny to me because we made the roster cuts. Kendrick initially made the 53-man roster, then immediately was cut, presumably after requesting his own release. I guess if he wants to make playing time, because he's an aging player, obviously, and he wants to have as many on-the-field snaps as he can. In this offense, he was realistically going to be like a wide receiver 5 or 6. The one player that we are all rooting for is Efton Chisholm, undrafted free agent. He gives a ton of vibes of like an Edelman, a Welker, potentially a Gunnar Olszewski, but he's definitely a reliable guy. He's more of like a Danny Amendola. He's got the build, he has the speed, he has the hands. So he's going to be a great guy to hold on to, hopefully for the foreseeable future. The captains were revealed. Drake May, Hunter Henry, which no surprises there. Drake is developing and blossoming into a great leader. Hunter Henry is a longtime leader here. On the defense, it's Marcus Jones, which was a surprise to me, but if the team voted it, then I respect it. We have linebackers Harold Landry and Robert Spillane, both deservingly being named captains. Kind of fun. I was expecting Morgan Moses to be named one, but it's all right. Not really my call, obviously. And for special teams, it deservingly went to Brendan Schooler, who's really made a name for himself since being picked up all the way back in 22. Great guy, great captain, definitely taking on that role that Matthew Slater left after retiring. But I would say this team is ready. This team is built to try to win and take advantage of every snap that they're playing this season and just take in all the opportunities and enjoy the moment. Now, my expectations for this team, it really just goes all over the place because looking at the schedule, we have the 3rd easiest in the league. And realistically, just looking at this team on paper, we could go 12-5. We have all the talent to do it. We have the right coaching staff, the players, etc. However, given that this team, regardless of who's coaching, Vrabel, Bill, Gerard, doesn't matter, we always seem to lose 3 to 5 games where we should win by like 20. So given that, and also the fact that we're having a whole new coach, a new scheme come in, Drake has to learn a whole new system, and this team really just being given a culture shock after the past couple of years, just seemingly having to deal with like scraps, and last year just felt like a laid-back year. I expect this floor to be a 7 to 8 win team, whereas our ceiling could be a 10 to 11 win team if we're lucky, and at best we are a 6th or 7th seed in the playoffs. But just given these past 2 years, finishing with a record above 4 wins, over 5-12, 6-11, I will happily take it. And I know this team is more than capable of winning 5 to 6 games, like in total, because even Vrabel, superstitiously, his worst record as a coach was 6-11, or 6-10 rather, before the NFL added one more game. So I think at the very least our floor could be 6 wins. But this team, I'm fully expecting them to start off slow, and this isn't being like negative or like pessimistic. These first 4 weeks being the Las Vegas Raiders, the Miami Dolphins in Miami, Pittsburgh Steelers at home in Foxborough, and the Carolina Panthers at home. Just given the circumstances, we could start off 2-2, 1-3, 4-0, doesn't matter. I just want to take every game how it is. I want to win every single game. As a fan, you want to win every game. You want to go 20-0, you want to go to that Super Bowl. Doesn't matter. It's like you just want to get it done. So if my expectations versus the Raiders, there's a lot of superstition. For instance, we're facing Pete Carroll. Haven't beaten him since Super Bowl 49 all the way with the Seahawks. He's had our number. We're facing Geno Smith, who for some reason always has our number. So if we want to overcome these superstitions and defy the odds, we have to do it. We have to win. We have to play our very best early on. And also, Pete Carroll always wins in his head coaching debut, no matter who he's playing for, college or professional. So it's going to be hard if we're going to win, but this team is more than capable. We have a great leader in Drake May. Stephon Diggs is going to be just the X factor we've needed. A great offensive line, a tremendous defensive line. I argue this defense is like top 5 all time right now in the league. And overall, just I say that word a lot overall, but overall, like, I know Christian Gonzalez is going to be out, which is unfortunate, but this secondary will be fine. Alex Austin has a chance to step up and just really help his value and showcase why he's such a deserving player to be here. But at the end, whatever happens, just I'm grateful that Patriots football is back and we have a reason to unite again and be behind this team and enjoy the football game, because there's only one week 1 every year, so we have to make the most of this one. And I say this in the bottom of my heart. Thanks for listening. I know this was a long one, and I've been away for so long, just a lot of stuff going on in life, but at the end of the day, you just got to keep rolling with it, make the most of every situation, even the bad ones. But again, thank you all for listening. Go Pats. And let's get the season opener W. Welcome to the Vrabel Era.
Go Pats!